Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the WODcast podcast. I am your host, Eddie Ift. Each and every week, I bring you a show, a podcast about strength conditioning, health, fitness, everything. A lot of CrossFit. We talk a lot of CrossFit. We talk a lot of my hobbies, skiing, surfing, mountain biking, all kinds of things like that. But I love all the aspects of fitness, from running, lifting, gymnastics, you name it. So we talk it. This week is like that. We talk to a guy who's a very fit individual, very health-oriented individual, works in the health business, and is a former athlete, a former amazing elite athlete, a former Olympian, two-time Olympian, and World Cup winner, skier. His name's Jeff Olson, good friend. We'll get to him. He's amazing. But before that, let's talk about you guys. You're an amazing, amazing listenership. I love everything you do. I love all your comments. I love all your criticisms. As much as I say I don't, I do. And when I don't get them, I get a little sad. I ran into a guy this week in the gym who is a listener of the show. I was at CrossFit Cornelius here in North Carolina, where I am. Excellent CrossFit gym. Excellent. Next week, I have Michelle Basnet, who is a coach there, who's going to the CrossFit Games. She's my guest next week. So we got a lot of great upcoming episodes. What else do I have for you? I have some really cool stuff, and I want to get to that, but I talk about the Patreon a lot. Each and every week, you can win yourself a leopard claw and a myopux. A leopard claw is a multi-tool device that you use to scrape adhesions on your body. Adhesions are those little clumps of things that mess up the tissue and don't allow the blood flow, and you can scrape them out. You put a little foam on there, a little lubricant, and you just scrape over it, and it gets that back and lets the blood flow and allows you to rehab a lot quicker than you would naturally. Sometimes you don't rehab. Sometimes it just ends up being gunked and you mess everything up. So get on it. Get yourself one of these. There's another thing called a myopux that I recommend to everybody, which is an electronic muscle stimulator. You should have this in your arsenal of rehabilitation devices, things like Theraguns, and myopux is one of them. It's an electronic muscle stimulator, stimulates your muscles, gets the blood flowing, gets all of the waste out to the lymphatic system. This will really help you get back to exercising a lot quicker. Get yourself one. Best way to do it, donate $5 a month. $5 a month. That's all you got to do is go to, our Patreon, which is patreon.com/WODcastPodcast or WODcastPodcast.com/Patreon. And you just sign up. You're going to get an extra episode every month. I want to apologize. The extra episode. Tell me if you like them. Are you listening to them? Because I don't have a way to track it. But I hope you're listening because I only post them on Patreon. We've had a few. I've got another one, Chris Cote. I'm having trouble posting it for some reason. I can't. Hopefully I recorded it, but I'll get it up. I've got to do a new one soon too. But I hope you're enjoying them. So you get an extra episode every month, and you get a chance to win. Our winner this week, Matthew Newell. Congratulations, Matthew, on winning a myopux and a leopard claw. You guys are an awesome listenership. I love when you go to Facebook, Instagram, everything. Add us on Instagram at Eddie or at WODcast Podcast. Facebook, we're WODcast Podcast. You can also add me at Eddie Ift. Find me everywhere. My new thing's TikTok. I'm on the TikTok. I had a video get 250,000 views in 2 days, so I was pretty excited about that. I think that's called viral. Yeah, I went viral. I was like COVID. I was so viral. It was a gun joke, and the wrong people are listening to it. They don't realize it's ironic, and they're all like, "Yeehaw, let's go fucking shoot people." But it got a lot of hits, so I should be really happy. No, I'm not. I don't care. Whatever. Anyway, shows. I have so many shows coming up. Let me tell you where they are, and then you can go to eddief.com and see where they are and go, holy shit, he's going to be there. I'm not going to tell you the dates. I'm just going to tell you where I am, and you should know, and then go book your tickets, okay? Here's the list. Ventura, and this is all starting in September. I'm just going to read down the list. Ventura, California, Kansas City, Missouri, Atlanta, Georgia, Sunnyvale, California, Las Vegas, Nevada, San Diego, California, Plano, Texas. The next one's either St. Louis or Portland. We're having a negotiation right now. Then Los Angeles, California, Wilmington, North Carolina, Naples, Florida, Key West, Florida, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, Los Angeles, California, Reno, Nevada, Bozeman, Montana, Wasilla, Alaska, Anchorage, Alaska, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Scottsdale, Arizona, Boston, Massachusetts, Ketchum, Idaho, Vancouver, British Columbia. Yes, can you tell there's a lot of skiing in there? I will be skiing. And that's a tough thing to do. That is a tough thing to do after I got to perform at night, ski during the day. I need a lot of energy. And people go, how do you have so much energy? You want to know how I have energy? Cellucor. That's right. C4 Energy is what does it. I like to perform well. I like pre-workouts. I like having lots of energy. I like clean eating, clean drinking. And so I use C4 Energy, which is powered by carnosine, beta-alanine, beta power. Okay? Because I want explosive energy, alertness, and performance. C4 Energy is, look, it's the top pre-workout energy drink on the market. You know why? 0 sugar, 0 sodium, 0 carbs, 0 calories, no coloring. It's awesome. It's so clean. It's got all good stuff in it, and they've packed it with clinically studied premium ingredients that support muscular endurance, hydration, and physical performance. You want to know what's in there? Caffeine. Boom. Carnosine, beta-alanine. Boom. If you don't know what beta-alanine is, you're crazy. You're not really doing CrossFit. You're not working out, because that's the stuff that made Matt Fraser. I'm not going to attribute his wins to it, but he said it felt like it gave him a third lung. It's got citrulline malate that supports an increase in nitric oxide levels. Anybody that's doing breath work, that's doing the nasal breathing, you know about the nitric oxide. Okay. How about beta power betaine? Huh? Do you know what that does? Well, it's naturally derived from beets. Beta power betaine, betaine. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Betaine. I'm going to say that. Beta power betaine. I hope I said it right. It doesn't matter. You kind of know what it is. But anyways, it helps support hydration and better physical performance. All right? You know the whole thing about beets. You know why people eat beets and take beets and beet juice. Well, this is in there. And then there's N-acetyl L-triosin. That's some kind of amino acid, and it supports mental and cognitive health during stressful activities. So they basically figured out what are the things that need to be in there. Boom, they did it. They've got a carbonated, non-carbonated version that you can use before training, throughout the day. I did one before this show so that I would have energy, because I worked out, and I was like, after the workout, I was like, I need more energy. Boom. C4 Energy. Okay? You can drink one before your workout, another one after, whenever. It's sugar-free. Doesn't matter. Don't settle for any other energy drink, all right? They've got a whole bunch of different flavors, really good flavors like cherry limeade, orange slice. And now through July 4th, save even more, 35% off C4, okay? 35% off. Sell your core and extend with the code WODcast. Go to c4energy.com. Use the code WODcast. That's c4energy.com. and use the code WODcast. That's 35% off. Hurry, though. Hurry. You got like a couple days to do this. C4energy.com. Use the code WODcast. All right? All right. Now let's get to the show. This episode was so much fun for me because I got to talk to a good buddy, and I love this guy. So smart, so nice, just such a nice guy, and just such a talented athlete. I hope you enjoy it and follow him afterwards and follow what he's up to, because he's got incredible science behind him with some great products. So check him out and enjoy Jeff Olson. And here we are. It's good to see you, buddy. I haven't seen you, I think, since I walked past you in the MGM Grand Hotel in Las Vegas.
That is right. That's right. You were working and I was playing.
Yeah, you were at a soccer tournament, weren't you?
Old man geezer soccer. You got it.
How did you get into soccer?
You know, after I retired from pro sports, I was done with the gym and I needed exercise, and so playing is, when you're playing, you just get exercise unconsciously. So, and I played a little growing up, so got in with some mates, and it was like a mile from my house, indoor soccer, and playing for I've been playing a long time since I retired. So it's just and I live with 5 women, so it's my bro night
Yeah,
with those
yeah, yeah.
women.
So did you when you say you played growing up, like you're obviously, an outstanding athlete, but were you a good soccer player too?
I was a hustler, and I got a lot of scrap goals, and I could use my head pretty well. So I was recreationally sufficient. I was functional. So I middle of the pack guy, but
Really?
hustler.
Like you, because I mean like I'm not kissing your ass, but I also don't want to diminish what you've accomplished in life to be an Olympic athlete. I'm watching the Olympic trials right now in track, and because I love track and I ran track, and I'm also watching. I was watching the swimming because I had a friend's one of the guys he was coaching in it, and it's just so elite and so like at the moment, like you have to be that good at that moment that you just have to be so good, and then to do it, you were 2 Olympics. I've
Yeah.
seen people like I had a cousin who made it to the Olympics, won medals in swimming, and then couldn't qualify this year. Like she was in the last Olympics, and it's just so hard to repeat that, and you have to be so intense and so focused that I would think other sports were like, they were easy for me too. Like you go middle of the pack, I would have thought it was pretty much any sport you chose, you could have been good at.
I don't know about that, but I did play just about every sport I could get my hand on when I was a kid. I was kinetic. I was, you know, before Ritalin. I came before Ritalin, good, but I found sport as my outlet, so I had to be moving all the time. I was a kinetic kid. I did my learning through my body and activity, and so I played all the sports kind of growing up, and I got signed up for a weekend ski program as a young kid, and the outdoors and the speed and the adrenaline and all I just kind of found my lane. But I did sport as kind of CrossFit cross training before CrossFit was a word, and um,
But you,
that was
but
helpful.
you grew up in Bozeman,
Yeah.
where didn't everybody ski? Wasn't that like you just grew up and that's the next thing you did? You skied.
It's funny. Not everyone skied. I mean, yes, everyone got out a few times a year, but it wasn't a big sport in Bozeman at the time. It was niche as skiing is in general, but plenty of people skied, but not everyone raced, obviously. I was the only kid in my class who joined the race program.
Wow. See, I would growing up in Pittsburgh, I would think someone in Bozeman. I'm like, oh, that's they snowshoe to school, and then they they get out of their igloo and they snowshoe, and then they have like ice skating practice and then ski. But I guess it's not
you
like that.
know, growing up, I was say from Montana, and they're like, "Oh, do you live on a ranch? Are you near teepees?" And like I grew up like in the town of Bozeman, in the old part, mature landscape. It was just like typical, city, but small town. But you know, the kids were traditional ballers: football, basketball,
Oh yeah,
baseball.
okay.
You know, and so during the winter, it's basketball season, and but yeah, so I was my only one in my class, and when I got into the program, I I got into a group that they were all older than me, and they were all better than me, and they wouldn't wait for me, so I had to keep up.
Right.
That was my quick learning.
That's how I felt when I skied with you. Um,
Well, if you want to get better at anything, throw yourself into a pond of people that are better than you, and start playing with them, and you acclimate to higher ground. That's
Yeah,
just life.
mine was the same way at my skiing start, but my friends didn't take me to an Olympic level.
Well, yeah, the other thing I had was just an inordinate rage to master this thing. I was possessed. And when I retired and didn't have that thing anymore, I realized, like, you got the smorgasbord of options. You're at the buffet table of life, and you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. When I was growing up, I wanted to do one thing, and
Wow.
that was singular. And so I didn't understand what that meant. It was a gift, right?
Yeah,
When I
I would say
retired, I
I
didn't
would say
have it, and then that was. I was like, oh, that's what everyone feels like now, because I was like, it's bobbing around in a big blue ocean with no anchor.
to be that singularly focused, I think is a gift. I mean, that's incredible to have that. Um,
Absolutely.
I can relate a little bit when I started to succeed in track a little bit in high school, and I was nowhere near the level of you, but I went to the state championships and went to college to run. I was focused, but I didn't know there was the potential of like I don't know. I guess I just didn't believe in myself. Like I look at someone like you, and it's like you had the ability, you had the belief, you had, and I guess, I, like you said, that's a gift to know and have that and be able to focus and go at it that intensely. And I look at people like you, and I'm like, I'm enamored of it. I think it's great.
Well, I'm an old has-been now. I'm a dad and a dude and a working man. But yeah, it was a incredible part of my life. It was an amazing run. Overtraining ended my career, which was a life lesson. But at the end, I met my wife at the Olympics, and I got a bride out of it, so I win.
Yeah,
I got a
yeah.
gold medal. She's my lady. So it was.
What's
It was
it's
awesome.
funny. So I, growing up skiing a bunch myself, I used to look at like skiing training, and CrossFitters don't understand this, but skiing training is very similar to a lot of the stuff that you guys have
Yeah,
been doing for years and years and years. Like so much plyometrics,
yeah.
so much like I like a lot of the isometrics and stuff that we do in CrossFit, which we don't do enough of. But and just the type of training that CrossFit does is uh very fitting for skiing because
Yeah, it's sort of like a linebacker meets basketball. I mean, it's very it's an anaerobic sport. You need endurance just to for the training and the outdoor work that you got to put in, and yeah, I mean it's a function, like you got to move your body in all shapes and sizes and forces. And so we were doing CrossFit training before CrossFit was a word.
right. Because I would go into a couple times I've been in like U.S. Olympic training centers where it's I went in the one in Lake Wanaka, I guess. Did you ever train there? The one in New Zealand?
No.
I went in there. I was in New Zealand doing shows, and I went in. And I went, oh my god, this looks like a CrossFit gym. Like they don't have, the machines and this and that. It's all bands and medicine balls and plyometric boxes. And I went, oh, these guys have been doing this forever, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they figured it out way before. And the Olympic coaches are the best in the world, and no, especially the U.S. because have always tried to compete on the world stage. Um, but what do you mean overtraining ruined your career? What happened?
Well, I grew up in an era where I thought work would take you to the promised land, and the person who worked the hardest would win. That whole sort of mindset. Working hard will get you very, very far in life, but as someone said, wise human performance expert said, there's a lot of collateral damage on the way to the top, meaning a lot of people burn out, a lot of people break, a lot of people, there's just a lot of triage on the way to the top. And so, in my sport of skiing, penalty for error was rather high in downhill skiing. And so crashing was a thing. But crashing and those injuries didn't end my career. What ended my career was heavy squats with my butt down to my ankles, doing those kind of squats, and heavy plyometrics. And I developed chronic patella tendonitis.
Mm.
And I tried to work through that. And tendonitis is an overtraining, overuse injury. You just have to rest. And I in the span of a year, I had 4 knee surgeries, 2 on each knee.
Ooh.
in the spring, and then the next spring, and that, the patella tendon is the fulcrum of the entire knee. And if you don't have a patella tendon, it doesn't matter how strong. I was proud of how strong my legs were, but it meant nothing when that fulcrum was damaged. And and that was an overtraining.
So that's just the patella's kind of grinding on the cartilage and wearing it down. What's that, chondromalacia?
No, it was just tendonitis.
Yeah.
The patella got inflamed. Any form of itis is an inflammatory problem. And I had to tape my knees every day for a year, and I was, it just took the wind out of my sails. I couldn't perform, and it was so bad I was concerned I wasn't going to be able to recreate upon retirement. But as I said, now I'm recreationally sufficient as to keep playing. But yeah, it took me out. So.
I had a little.
So the lesson was working hard will get you far, but working hard and working smart is probably a better formula.
Well, I think that's the one thing we've learned in CrossFit is there's a lot of talk of it being an injury laden sport, blah blah blah. And there is, if it's not done properly. Right. And everyone, I have an overuse injury right now. I have an elbow that I've been nursing for like over a year and it's an overuse injury. But the problem is an asymmetry. I use my extensor or my flexors way more than my extensors, and I don't do the work. The work is to go, and I'm going to force myself to go do that work. I experienced that tendonitis when I first started CrossFit. I would get the knee tendonitis and it was really bad. And I kind of had to figure out, go through a million different steps to try to find the solution to it. Luckily I did. But I can imagine how bad that would be competing with that. I had no competition. Mine was just kept me out of the gym. Yours kept you off, out of competition, which.
Yeah, I struggled. Yeah, it took me out. So, there's no such thing as overtraining, only under recovery. And I couldn't recover my tendonitis.
But you had, I imagine you had the best coaches, the best PTs, the best everything. What were those guys doing for it?
Well, they were giving me legal drugs,
right?
Just to blunt the pain. They were giving me.
Were you guys allowed to take what's it called, cortisone or whatever shots?
Yeah, we could have cortisone shots.
Right.
Yeah. To a certain point. Doping in our sport really didn't factor in because, the biggest that isn't always the best.
Sure.
More times than not is not the best. And so that bulking up thing just didn't really play out in our sport at all. But yeah, so the treatment I had was, a few cortisone shots here and there, but is hardcore taping every day where it was a hitch and they would apply this hitch tape across my patella tendon, but it was every day. I had to do it for a year. So that was really the only solution
to try to make it track better.
Just to support it, because when racing downhill, pulling those forces, landing off a jump, eccentric loading.
Sure.
My knee would buckle, the pain would my knee would just so that having that little support. And it didn't do the job, obviously, but so we tried.
So let me ask you this question. I've noticed with top skiers like you guys have quads for days, and you end up being really good cyclists too. And it's just because while you're skiing and all that pressure that you're pushing down on the snow, you're using your quads insanely.
Well, you use your ass, you use your quads, you use your basically from your midsection down.
But
you're using it all, and so hardcore core, powerful core, because trying to pull those forces and G forces and centrifugal forces in your back and so everything from the waist down or from the midsection down. So yeah, I took pride in my leg strength and my leg power, but again, it got undercut by my patella tendon. So
my question though with that is, how much were you working on your hamstrings?
Oh, a lot.
Lot of deadlifting and everything. Okay.
Yeah, I did all that stuff.
Okay. Because I would think it's sometimes in a sport people just get this thing I need this, and then they neglect something else because they're going, this is the most important thing in this sport, shoulder strength or whatever.
No, I mean, I was doing everything leg, and I was proud of my size of my leg. Anyway, all that, the tendon was bad. So, no regrets, but I did learn about, working smart versus working hard. And, that sent me on my way to the rest of my life. So
I'm just curious, what were you squatting back then?
Oh gosh. Wasn't I think 4 plates, whatever 4 plates was.
That's a lot. That's a lot. That's really heavy.
But 3 plates was, several sets of 5 to 8 or whatever, Anyway, all that to say, leg strength was important, but
were all the guys on the Olympic team, was that a big thing for everybody? Was strength training big, or were there guys that were just natural ability that were like, fuck the weight room, I don't need that
Well,
shit?
like I said, the strongest guy doesn't always win. So we all were strong.
Right.
All the guys are strong. Yeah, I mean, it's a testosterone. You're like a linebacker, so you got to have power, you got to have strength, you got to have. So all the guys were strong.
But my point is, I know guys in the NFL who will tell you stories about some of the guys, like a buddy of mine that played for the Steelers told me about Jerome Bettis wouldn't come to the weight room, and they had to pay him. They'd give him bonuses in his contract to have him come to the weight room just because he was so naturally physically talented. And he did it without the weights that he was like, would he have been better? Yes. And they knew that. And maybe more injury free? Yes. But he was like, my dad one time was talking to, it was either Ricky Jackson or Hugh Green, one of them. They played for Pitt and then they went on to play in the pros. And he said, how you doing in the weight room? And he's like, lifting's for white boys.
I think there are people that are naturally gifted. Like there's a lot of guys in the World Cup Tour that were just naturally big guys. I was a naturally lean guy. My body was more of an ectomorph / aerobic guy. I was good at aerobics as a young. I had to work hard to put on weight, and I had to work hard to become big. And some guys were just naturally big.
Yeah,
like farm boy big.
Right. And that helps with skiing. It helps to be big. Like,
yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if it was one of those sports where.
Yes, especially in the speed events.
Yeah. Is it what? Just more weight carries you down the hill faster?
More weight, more mass, keeping you grounded. Weight and mass and power. So naturally big guys are strong.
Did you guys do a lot of Olympic lifting? Did you do clean and jerks and?
Yeah, we do a lot of clean and jerks, a lot of deadlifts. Yeah. Those were the two main ones. Lunges.
Snatching at all?
Yeah. What's that?
Did you do any snatching?
No.
Okay.
Not really.
Okay. That's interesting. I have to tell our listeners too, to let them know that you are a downhill skier, which when it comes to ski racing, downhill is are you upside down in that picture?
Yeah, that was a Kodak photo shoot. And we were running gates and I was doing this lap and it was the end of the day. It was a snowbird actually. And there was a little cornice. It was springtime. The resort was closed. And I said, I'm going to go pop a flip off here and click, 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 click.
I'll never forget my first time skiing with you. I should tell the listener my story of how I know you. Jeff happens to be a relative of one of my closest friends, and through marriage. And you came to stay with us. I don't know if you know this. You came to stay with us, and there were like a whole bunch of us living in a house or a apartment in New York City. It was my first year in New York. They were all finance guys, and I was an aspiring comedian / waiter / temp.
Yeah.
And you show up. He's like, hey, we always had someone on our couch, always. And we're going back. This is 25 years ago. And
boy, we are old men.
Yeah, and he goes, yeah, my cousin's husband's coming to stay with us, and we were like, yeah, okay, and he goes, yeah, he'll be here for a couple days. He's got some interviews, and we were like, yeah, cool. Just another guy you just walk in. There was always some random person. So I come in and you're there and you're just real nice and they're gone. And I'm like, here I am in the apartment with this random dude. So you and I go off to have lunch. You're like, hey, you want to get some food? And we go to get lunch. And because I was always up for anything, I had nothing to do till, I had a 5-minute spot that night at the
I
Chuckle
was
Hut.
interviewing, I think, for my first real job after I retired. Or something.
Am I right in saying it was Lord Abbott?
Correct. Yeah.
How good?
I worked for Lord Abbott.
How
Good call.
How good am I? So,
Wow.
so we're sitting at lunch, and I start talking with you. I'm like, "What'd you used to do?" And you're like, "I skied." And I was like, "Yeah, me too." And you're like, "Yeah." And I go, like, "What did you do skiing?" And I'm thinking you're going to be like, "Well, I was a bartender, and then I ran the chairlift," and I'm like thinking you're a ski bum. And I go, like,
I was a professional ski bum.
that's
Yes.
what you go. You go. I raced, and I go, "Yeah, me too. I used to." And you're like, you're looking at me like, "Shut up, buddy." Like, shut up. Like, cause I'm just like trying to compare myself, and I go, "Were you any good?" And you go, "Yeah, I was in 2 Olympics and I won the World Cup." And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm an idiot. I'm a real idiot.
Well, our sport's a lifetime sport, so there's a lot of room for playing. But if you're like a football player, I play football. I mean, there's kind of one track for that. It's not a life sport. So yeah.
But so then
fun.
you stayed with us. We had a good time. And as you were leaving our apartment, you made the mistake of saying, "Hey, you guys should come out to Utah and come stay with me." And you walked out the door, and we were like booking flights. we're like, we're going to go stay with our buddy Jeff, and we're going to go skiing with him. And
you did.
we did. But the listeners need to know, you also had how old was your daughter?
Oh, she was under 2 probably.
No, she was like an infant.
She's probably not walking yet.
We showed up at a married couple with a newborn baby's house, like 3 of us, and crashed on your couch. I think 3 or 4 of us. I forget.
That's what you do in a ski town. It's like, come on, come see us. It was all good.
If I told my wife that I did
We
that,
had plenty of room, so it was fun.
my wife would be like, "You are the biggest asshole ever for just showing up like that."
Well, we were young and dumb. You're an older parent. We were young and dumb. So
Well, we showed up, and I remember we went skiing the first day, and we get to the top of the mountain, and you're like, "All right, guys, take your skis off." And I'm like, "Why?" And you're like, "We're going for a hike." And the next thing you know, we hiked, like, not far, but for us then it was far. And I was exhausted by the time we got to the top of the cornice, and you're like, "Okay, we're going to drop in here." And I'm like, "No, that was the end. I'm done." And then you drop into this cornice, and then you're like, "Hey, there's a little jump over here," and you do a layout back flip, and I'm like, "I think we're in over our heads, guys."
You have a good memory.
But I just remember you being a downhiller and then just throwing this layout back flip, and I was like, "Is there anything this guy can't do?"
Funny story. So I was, I hucked 360s growing up as a kid, just playing and goofing off, and World Cup downhill in Val d'Isere, I caught an edge going off a big jump. It was a big turn, pulling a lot of G's, and I caught it my uphill edge, and I was spinning as I left the ground, and I ended up backwards, going 65 miles an hour, and all of those hucking 360s, the 10,000 hours, I just kept looking where I was going, and I landed a 360 in the middle of a downhill course, grabbed my bully tuck and kept going. I think I'm the only athlete in World Cup history to land a 360 going over.
That's amazing. Do you have footage of that?
Well, they had it on like VHS or whatever. It was like the Euro version, and I got a copy of it, and it was I was like the hero in the World Cup for a week, and and I sent the tape home, and then I lost the tape.
That's incredible, though. That's one of the most amazing things I've ever heard, because not only did you huck like those skis you're on, what are they, like 220 centimeters or so?
Yeah, 220 centimeters. They're big, fat, long. They're long, big 2x4s. Yeah.
Like, to turn those around is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's pretty burly.
So as a downhill skier, I'm not sure the number, but what are you hitting? How fast miles per hour are you going down the mountain?
70s very average. 80s are you hit 80s at moments during the course. A couple downhills you'll hit 90 for a moment, for a brief period, but 70s are pretty average.
And I again, for the listener that doesn't ski or doesn't understand, I will at times when I'm skiing just for fun take my phone and try to see how fast I can get myself in a full tuck straight down a hill, and I might hit like 55 miles an hour or something. I don't know, like, I can't imagine what it was like to go that
Well,
fast.
it's sort of like if you go 70 on the freeway, it doesn't feel like much. But if you go 70 on a dirt road, it feels a little different. And so a lot of times it would depend on how the course was prepared. If it was really buffed and smooth, going 70 can feel like going 50. But if it was, then going 70 can feel like a whole different thing. So it depends on the course and the turns and the terrain, going 70 over bumps
but you're risking your life. I mean, there are people that die doing the downhill, correct?
Yeah, I've seen several people die in front of my eyes.
Yeah, and massive injuries. I had a buddy downhiller, snap his femur right in half, and just
broken bones and 13 surgeries.
Wait,
so,
how many was that again?
18 broken bones and 13 surgeries. Not all from skiing, but the majority of them were from skiing. Yeah.
Wow. And have you ever had your brain checked out to see what's wrong with you?
That's what my wife says every morning.
I often wonder about guys like you, though, if there is something to do with your amygdala that allows you to do something that crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think, as a young man, you're filled with testosterone, and you feed the beast, right? You
right.
Crave that in your 20s. And, we were a traveling fraternity, a bunch of guys blasting around the world. We lived and traveled as a fraternity, but it was an individual sport. So there were some internal dynamics, competition, but we were a team. But yeah, adrenaline it does good biochemistry to the brain if you have an aptitude for that adrenaline and that cortisol and that all of that. When you're in your 20s, you're like, let's roll, So.
Well, I was just talking. My father-in-law is a former NFL player, and we were just talking yesterday about why his injuries didn't scare him off, though. Like some people, my younger brother broke his leg sledding as a kid, and he was a great athlete in every sport, played all contact sports, broke his leg, and never played a contact sport again. He just was like, that's it. I don't ever want to get hurt like that again. Where other people like you and my father-in-law push through and go.
Well, the rush and the feeling and the experience outweighs the injury. It's asymmetric, right? The experience outweighs the risk, and it's there. But So one of the life skills I realized in mid-age is I had 10,000 hours playing with fear, which was a pretty good life skill, and fear stops most people in life. So that was, as a professional athlete, certainly in a sport like that, like ours of downhill, when fear kicks in, it's like, finally a worthy competitor, like that changes the way. Yeah. So it was a pretty good life skill with, fear stops most people. So, what's the saying? Fear stopped more dreams than failure ever has, or something like that. So that was a life skill that I took with me.
So what do you do now? I mean, that doesn't just go away. You still have to have a little bit of that where you chase that adrenaline.
Yes and no. Like I say, I'm recreationally sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
So, I like kayak, I like rock climbing, heli skiing, but all of that to me is sort of recreational fun. I don't do stupid shit anymore because you just sort of, you lose there's some middle-aged guys that just keep doing crazy shit. Like, but I live in suburbia now, man. I've been domesticated.
I had Johnny Mosley on the show, and he said the same thing. He's like, yeah, I don't do crazy shit anymore. He goes, oh, well, there is that one time. He goes, I was at some like charity event, and he's like, I surprised everybody. I showed up to do.
Yeah, if you catch me in the right moment at the right time,
That's what he said. He goes, I came out. He goes, I'm coming down. All these kids are like cheer, like, hey, we have Johnny Mosley, blah blah blah. And he goes, and I thought
it's sort of like that big fat guy at the wedding that used to be a ripping break dancer, and he'll get out there at 280 pounds and try to do the same thing, and then like he'll tweak something or. But he's got some skills. You can tell it's in there somewhere.
Johnny said he did a backflip off one of the jumps and over rotated. And he goes, I didn't realize it. I broke my neck. And I'm like, what?
Well, that shit. Like I had an old man injury a couple years ago, shattered my shattered my tibial plateau and 5 fractures playing old man soccer. So anyway, yeah, the mind, I think like the Hanukkah was it's the most dangerous downhill in our sport, kind of like the Super Bowl.
Where is that?
In Austria, Kitzbühel, Austria, Kitzbühel. And I know my mind could run that course, but my body probably wouldn't keep up with it. My brain.
Does part of you kind of want to? Like a little bit of you go, oh, I'd like to do that.
No, because I know my body couldn't handle it. Like the forces, like my patella tendons, like they would never be able to handle that force.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think that in surfing all the time. I surf every day, and as much as I can. And there are waves that I would love to surf, but I know I would end up at the bottom.
Well, you're a parent now. You got to be around.
Yeah. That gets in my head all the time. When you become
a parent, you lose some testosterone.
I think so. It goes into the kids, and they get it.
It goes. Well, and I have 5 women in my house, so I've swam and traded water and estrogen for the last 20 years. So
yeah, that'll bring. Well, that's how I grew up. I had 3 older sisters, so I am going to talk to you in the middle of the show about a coffee alternative. Okay, we all like coffee. I love it. I can't have coffee though, because coffee does weird stuff to me. I stopped drinking coffee a while ago, and I needed a coffee alternative, and I found it with mud water. And if you want to find it, it's mud/WTR, because it's cool. It does the like WTR thing, mud water. Anyways, it's a coffee alternative. How do they do it? Mushrooms and herbs. It's got 1/7 the caffeine as a cup of coffee. So you're going to get the energy, but you're not going to get the anxiety, the jitters, or the crash of coffee. They got a whole bunch of pretty cool ingredients in there, and they all have a purpose. They have cacao and chai for mood and a microdose of caffeine. They've got lion's mane for alertness, and they've got cordyceps to help support physical performance, and they've got chaga and reishi to support your immune system. Turmeric for post-workout soreness. I did not take my turmeric today. I need it. I'm just going to have a mud water instead, because it includes the turmeric in it. And it's got cinnamon for antioxidants. I used to drink cinnamon tea. Don't need to do that anymore, because I'm getting it now from this. I talked to Dylan, who is, he takes care of me a lot with my diet. And he also really takes care of my wife with her diet. He is her nutritionist, and he's done amazing work. Dylan Farr, that is, at Physiologic. And he always talks to me about, he recommends no coffee after 11 a.m. And I'm like, I'm dying. My wife's dying. We're so tired because we need a boost. And, it's tough. And he's like, drink mud water. Okay, why? The taste, first of all, is great. And it's got all those things I talked about in it, from cacao, chai, lion's mane, cordyceps, turmeric. Look, for me, knowing I'm drinking this, I'm getting an energy boost, and it's also going to clear up like that workout soreness, it's like an anti-inflammatory. You can put it in your protein shakes if you want. You can add honey, you can add nut milk. It's Whole30 approved, and it's 100% USDA organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, vegan, and kosher certified. All right? I think you've agreed that you need this in your life. So go visit mudwater.com/WODcast. That's MUDWTR. That's MUDWTR.com/WODcast. You're going to support the show. You're going to use the WODcast at checkout for $5 off. All right? But I believe that fear thing is necessary in our lives. I think people experience a lot of anxiety and panic because
most people in life.
Because they're not allowing themselves to be in fearful situations, like real fight or flight. And I think I say first world fears. Like most of the mental health and I don't want it to mean mental health. It's a big issue in our world, but
fear is a powerful, it's the most powerful emotion, next, right after love. And so, but fear catches most people in life. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I like to put myself in sketchy situations a little bit, like a tiny little bit, like when
I mean, a comedian that's pretty
horrible feeling to bomb on stage.
yeah, no doubt.
Horrible. But I'd take that over a
Yeah, you don't go to the hospital because of it.
Yeah, I'll take that over a physical injury any day of the week.
Yeah, yeah.
In fact, I like a bomb every once in a while. Like when I bomb, and
I broke my leg 2 years ago. I say, look, I'm blessed to have legs to break. So there you go.
Like I would say, I'm not being arrogant. It's just once you do this long enough, like I have, you don't bomb as much. I used to bomb a lot.
Yeah, of course.
And but it happens still probably 1 out of every 50 shows or 100 shows, maybe 1 out of 100 or 200, where it's a bomb.
You got better batting average. No,
and when it happens, it hits you like, holy shit, I can't get out of this. And it starts going sideways, and it's an awful feeling.
Well, and at your age now, you understand. I mean, you can be self-deprecating and have some humor about it. But when you're 20, you're probably like, it's the end of the world.
Oh, when I was 20, I used to come home after a bomb, and it would sit with me. And if I didn't have a show for like 3 days, it would sit with me for 3 days. You almost need that next show to cleanse, to like wash it off of you. And I guess it's sort of, I can equate it.
Sport, there's a lot of failure. I mean, Bodie Miller, he said something, who's the winningest male athlete in American history. He failed 95% of the time.
Wow.
And he's known for the 5%. A lot of failure in sport, right? Obviously, but everyone knows the highlights.
Yeah. The best CrossFitter in the world, I asked him why. He's a very humble guy. One of the best CrossFitters in the world, Rich Froning. And I said to him, you're pretty humble, and how do you, he goes, I lose all the time. He's like, if you look, he's basically, they're doing all these competitions to get to win the overall thing. He goes, I don't get first in so many events. He's like, but overall, I'm first because it's kind of like the decathlon. And he goes, so there's a lot of losing. and I was like,
that's what sport teaches you. There's a lot of losing. It's a good life skill, for the rest of your activities.
Do you still follow Olympic skiing?
Very loosely. I'm a armchair quarterback now.
Yeah.
I'm watching it, and I feel the muscles twitch. I get a Big Mac attack. The muscles twitch a little bit, the fibers, but I don't follow it. I'm not a passionate, aggressive fan. I know enough to watch it and see things, but I enjoy it. But I don't set my TiVo or design my life around it.
Right. So here's a question I have for you though that I think I very rarely ask good questions, but I think this is a good question. In some sports, there's been so much progression due to the internet or new technology or whatever it is, where, you've been out of competition for how many years now? 20, 25 years, where someone like you could look back and just be like, holy shit, these guys are so much better than we are. But you look at something like track and field, where you can look at a race. In fact, I watched an old race with Roger Kingdom running hurdles, where he's running almost the same exact time that they're running right now today in the Olympics. And you're like, he can watch them and go, I'd beat that guy. I think I could have won this race. Has skiing progressed that you're like, oh, these guys are in a new world, or is it the same?
Well, two things have changed. Athletes ski a lot longer now just because of sports science and training, and skiing into your mid 30s is pretty normal now.
Mm-hmm.
I retired in my late 20s. I was going to go for another 40. Anyway, so the longevity has changed just because of sports science, but the equipment, the technology has changed. Like I skied, I raced before parabolic skis, before shaped skis. And so the design of the design of equipment has allowed greater technical capacity. They've actually, but not much has changed. I mean, it's a pretty raw sport, right? I mean, you got equipment, and then you got the mountain. The athletes have gotten bigger, faster, stronger,
Mm-hmm.
but that's logic. That's a very logical progression. There's no sort of, the only unicorn has been just the longevity. I mean, mid 30s that you're coming into your prime. So there's a longer play in the game, in the sport, and then the equipment's changed just enough to make it. There's a little bit of a delta there, a little bit of change, but it hasn't changed that much.
So you're into health now, and nutrition and everything like that. Were you into it then when you were competing?
Yeah. I mean, another great thing about our sport is it teaches, some good life skills. And just being an athlete. Yeah. So I was a different beast when I was an athlete. I was possessed around every tool in the toolkit I could have to be better. There was a journalist who traveled with us, and this is reality shows, and he wrote a book called Right on the Edge of Crazy. You can get it on Amazon. It's a book on the American downhillers. He traveled with us for a year. It was behind the scenes look at downhill ski racers. And but I was one of these athletes who's like, I want every tool that's out there that's possible to be an advantage. And so what I ate was important to me. I didn't understand. I mean, science has changed a little bit, although it's not changed a lot in terms of conventional wisdom. And that's my day job for the last 20 years. Is one of my things is try to pull sports nutrition in the 21st century. But yes, I lived pretty well, ate pretty clean, but it's changed a little bit nutrition's changed a little bit in 20 years. So anyway,
I watched your TED talk that you did. And
Which one?
The one Denver, trying to get Denver the Olympics.
Yeah.
And you do talk about that, like the nutrition and what everything you talk about is funny. It's what the guy who created CrossFit talks about lifestyle and disease and why we've done this and why we need sport and why we need exercise and why we need health. And it's funny because I think the first pillar of CrossFit is nutrition. Yeah. And the funny thing is, like, all that stuff of CrossFit, I'm not a Kool-Aid drinker, so I've made myself not memorize all the
You are doing the WODcast podcast,
yep,
though. So
but I started this to make fun of CrossFit.
Okay, perfect. Yes, there's a lot to make fun of with CrossFit, as with anything, but yeah.
I had the CEO on last week, and all I did was tell him how I used to be the biggest cynic of it.
Well, every sport has its bubble. Like, there's a ski bubble, there's a CrossFit bubble. I do a lot of work with bodybuilders. There's a bodybuilder bubble.
Yeah.
But and that's the stuff you make fun of, is the fringe stuff.
Sure. But when you said that you took every tool into your arsenal, I have Ryan Flaherty, who's the head of performance training at Nike. I have him on the show every once in a while. And he said that's the one commonality he finds with great athletes, that like people at the top of their game are obsessed and will do anything they can to gain an advantage. They'll get a new coach. They'll try breathing techniques. He's like, they're just constantly looking for, will that help me? Can I get better? Can I be, it's not this thing like, well, I'm at the top, I'm just going to ride this. It is constant.
No, you're a student of the game. You become a student of the game, and you take on two things: adaptation and curiosity. So you're always adapting, always curious about incremental things, tweaks. You're always on the hunt. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's all our listeners. I've got a bunch of like soccer moms at home that do CrossFit that are listening to this, that are
Hello, soccer moms,
that want to be the best soccer mom in the world.
I work with a ton of soccer moms. I love them.
Yeah.
I'm a soccer dad. I was a soccer dad. I'm an empty nester now, but
are they all out?
Yeah, man. Yep. We're selling our house in Colorado. We're building a house in Montana, and we're going home. We're going to go back to Boston for a couple of years and hang out. Yeah, we're going to cruise.
So you'll have the house in Bozeman, and you can just shoot out whenever you want.
Yeah.
Nice. Sounds like it's empty for me when I need to go there.
Yeah, we're gonna have a reunion ski blowout weekend up in Bozeman there next winter.
Yeah, for December 11th for my show at the.
No, that's right. You're coming.
I forget the name of the theater. I played the Rialto once.
Rialto, the Ellen, the
but
Rialto.
There's a new place that I'm playing on the 11th.
Oh yeah, they just built a brand new modern fashizzle place.
That's it. That's where I'm gonna be. I love that town. You grew up there.
Yeah, man, Bozeman rocks.
I went there. I used to go to perform at Montana State like 20 years ago when I used to do colleges a lot. And I would go once in the winter and once in the summer. I would do their freshman orientation, and I'd go mountain biking up in those mountains. And then I'd go in the winter and I'd go up to Bridger Bowl.
Yeah, you got to build business where you like to go play. Like we built business in Aspen and Vail and Sun Valley, so I can go hang out and tax write-off.
Well, when I went there 20 years ago, though, I was like, this is the coolest little tiny town in America. They've got a fireplace in the airport. And then I went there last year, 2 years ago, before the pandemic.
Discovered, as all good places have been discovered. Good places get discovered. And then,
holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
COVID accelerated. Someone said COVID accelerated the way we work by about 10 years. So, now the virtual thing, my parents, their next door neighbors now are two high-powered attorneys from San Francisco who wanted to raise their kids in a small town. And so the world's been discovered.
I think Yellowstone helped too, the movie
Yellowstone,
or TV show.
Brought in the jets and the billionaires. Yeah.
Well, I'm talking Yellowstone, the TV show. I think.
Oh, the TV show. Yeah. Well, yeah.
I think people watch Yellowstone and went, "Oh, I want to go."
We want to perpetuate that No, it's pretty cool. It's entertaining. Montana looks like that.
Yeah.
There are facets of the characters. When this guy wrote this book about us, Right on the Edge of Crazy, I gained a great appreciation for the media because he and the problems with trying to portray a human in the media, because they usually pick one character trait and that becomes your persona and your caricature, as did this writer who had a bunch of guys and he picked one character trait from each of us and that became our caricature in the book.
I didn't know about this. What's the book? Right Edge of Crazy?
Right on the Edge of Crazy.
And that was about you and the other guys on the ski team?
Men's downhill. Yeah, it's on Amazon. You can Google it.
Oh.
Yeah, it's Right on the Edge of Crazy, the men's downhill. Wrote a book on it. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then he picked a character trait from each of us, and that's kind of who we became that in the book. Yeah.
Well, when you started though, like, I grew up on a little small ski hill in Pennsylvania where there wasn't much vertical, so you couldn't ever do the downhill. Not that I ever would have. I was a slalom guy. I'd go into GS and be like, "Whoo, I'm going a little faster," and Super G I think I did once and kind of freaked out. And then downhill, you're taking it up a notch from there. So what led you to that, like as a young kid, you're like, I want a downhill?
Well, I didn't say I wanted downhill. I wanted a ski race. And so I did a slalom GS and downhill. They didn't have Super G when I started, and then they had Super G, when I got into my teens. And so I loved all of the events. I had a particular aptitude and skill set for going faster. So
yeah, there's not something of like a fast twitch, slow twitch. There's nothing determines who is, or is it a mentality though? Is there like, because I would think the downhillers are a bit.
We always used to make fun of the tech. We called them the tech guys, the slalom and GS guys. Like Alberto Tomba, one of the greatest alpine skiers of all time, Italian guy, he was an amazing technical skier, but he didn't race Super G or downhill. So there is a mentality in the speed guys that a lot of the technical guys don't have, but there's also aptitudes. Like some guys are just fast twitch and built for slalom.
Yeah.
And
that's what I equated it to, because me being a sprinter, I felt that I was better at slalom because I just had all this fast twitch muscle fiber, that when it came to even those other things, I felt like it was maybe what you do was more technical because, or
it's
took more strength.
aspects of technical skill.
Yeah. All right. I know you guys all know I'm an elitist and I care about what goes in my body. I'm not an elite person, but I want to be elite, so I take elite only products. I'm very careful about what I eat and drink and put in my body. I take lots and lots of supplements because I don't eat enough in my diet, and I go to the best company out there and look for the best product possible. I researched and researched and researched, and all my roads led to Thorne. If you know about Thorne, you know they're the Lamborghini of supplements. And when I say Lamborghini, they're the best performing. That's what I mean. I don't mean they're expensive like a Lamborghini. I just mean they perform like one. And if you're looking to excel at your next CrossFit competition, or you just want really good workouts and you want to feel better and you want to be healthier, Thorne's your company. They have done the science that you can't do, that most of the other companies aren't doing. They have the most comprehensive line of NSF certified for sport products on the market. They are the unquestioned leader in quality and in innovation in sport nutrition. Okay, don't trust your body to anything less. Choose the supplement brand that has extensive third-party testing and the highest level of certification recognized in pro sports. Choose Thorne, the official nutritional supplement partner of CrossFit. That's right. This was Kismet. We came together at the same time. I started working with Thorne. CrossFit started working with Thorne. Look at that. Okay, so now through CrossFit's premier partnership, all members get an exclusive 20% discount on all of Thorne's health solutions. You got to visit Thorne, THORNE.com/u/WODcast to learn more. That's a very difficult URL. Listen to me. Thorne, THORNE.com/u/WODcast. This is like, you're never going to get this deal anywhere. Everybody wants Thorne. Nobody gets a deal. You're getting a deal because of me. Go to Thorne, THORNE.com/u/WODcast. They have something for everything you need. You're looking for magnesium. They got it. You're looking for curcumin. They've got it. You're looking for any amino acid. They've got it. You're looking for, I say magnesium, you name it, they have it. And it's the highest quality stuff. Just go check it out. Thorne, THORNE.com/u/WODcast to learn more. Yeah, I just always equated like, oh, the reason I can do this is because I have this weird, there's something wrong with me. Like I could run 100 meters, and when you made me go.
I mean, there's not a lot of big guys racing slalom on the World Cup Tour.
Tombo was pretty big, though, wasn't he?
Well, he was kind of a breakout. Yeah, he definitely was a bigger guy. But now they're sort of, I mean, they're still big guys. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But there's much bigger guys racing downhill.
So do you ever do any old man races now?
No.
Nothing. Not even like NASCAR, like with your kids.
No, I just don't put myself near a lot of courses. I mean, if there's a course, I can hop in and drop in.
Yeah.
I'm a recreational. I like going skiing with friends and family, and you. And
did any of your kids get into it?
No.
Wow.
No, I exposed them to it. But the hook didn't catch.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were into other stuff, which is cool. Yeah.
I
wasn't one of those crazy parents who tried to grind it into them.
No, I think that's I don't know. I'm reading a lot of
there's a lot of great book for the soccer moms. You want to read a book, give it to the soccer dads. It's called the Talent Code.
Read it.
Phenomenal.
Read it. I tell everybody on this show to read that book. Unbelievable.
I read for every coach and every parent.
Unbelievable. You know what? I'm going to go read it again. I've read it like two times. It's such a good book. And
so the one thing, if you remember in that book, it was so that he deconstructs talent into bite-sized chunks, but then there's this one chapter called the X Factor, but he named it, he called it a rage to master. And I was like, it's the first time I ever heard anyone articulate what I felt as a young kid. Like I had a rage to master skiing, and we did a Zoom with him about 10 years ago. We had it in a book club, and he came on and he said, yeah, if you're a parent, and he says in the book, but you can't push a rage to master into your child. They get it from